Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun. I'm having a few minutes of fun in one of my altered book art journals today, inspired by these bird tags that we created the other day, and I think I'm going to be using them as the basis for a page. And one of the things I'm looking at today is, with an element like this, just tying it together with some other things. So some of the similar ingredients, I've got a couple of leftover birds here that got cut and didn't make it onto a tag. I will of course link to relevant videos, the tag making, if you're interested in seeing the cover of this book be made, which you can see is not my usual colours. I will do that. So I think, yes, look, these tags have got these grasses on, so I think I'm going to start by just putting a few of those into the background in, yeah, some greens, maybe some turquoises. I've got beach cruiser here, I've got leaf green. This is not clinging because it's a very dirty stamp by now. I use it a lot, I love it. So glad I don't have to draw my grasses every time I want some grasses. So a couple of beach cruiser ones, a couple of leaf green ones, and then we might be going to put some of these over the top of my next plan as well. So there are already some pages in here which have got various bits of texture that are just putting a stop to these being able to be completely flat stampings, and that's fine. As you'll see in a minute, I have plans for the lower area of these pages anyway, but that imperfection I actually find quite helpful when I'm playing in these journals. I don't want things to be too easy, simple or perfect. I like the roughness of that. I like that I can't get a full, necessarily complete stamping going. I'm playing around. So one of the things I really wanted to do here was give myself some sort of stony brick texture. So this is my brickwork stencil. I'm sure you may have others that are similar, to create just a little bit of my favourite stoniness. So I'm working with a combination of, this is the PaperArtsy Grunge paste. Obviously this is a PaperArtsy stencil I designed for PaperArtsy. So I'm going to put the Grunge paste through, and I love the sort of clay texture of Grunge paste. It has a beautiful sort of natural feel to it as a texture paste. And then what I quite like to do is bounce my palette knife up and down, just creating a bit of texture there. And the other way to add a bit of texture is with some grit paste. Can be any grit paste. You could use opaque, you could use translucent, you could use the Crypt paste, if you've got the Deco Art texture paste, anything like that, just to add a bit of sandy texture in there. And that should, because this is a nice deep stencil, that's giving us a really good stony little corner down in the bottom of that page. I quite like the idea of this not solid brickwork going on something else. I might just find myself, if I got a tag hanging around, oh look, it could just go onto here. And if I just scrape this, I don't know what this is, some sort of sketchbook paper. I'm going to do this as not a full brick wall, just to get myself maybe a little outline of bricks. So I've turned it over, as you can see, and I'm just trying to get whatever's on there off onto that, and that's giving me, ooh, look at that, scrumptious texture to use on something else in the future. I'll give this a quick little wipe, because what I now want to do is reverse it so that I can have some bricks coming down this side. Oh, I could, well, maybe what I do is go for one of the others. So I deliberately designed this stencil so that you've got them in various scales, if you're working on a larger scale or a smaller scale, but also this one, which is a sort of more of a, I suppose, a dry stone walling kind of affair. And they're all a bit tumble down and a bit crumbly, because you know me. I like things tumble down and a bit crumbly. Do I want that one or that one? Yeah, quite like that. Or do I want this just at a different height? I think maybe I want this one just as a slightly different height, a little bit lower down. Just a few tumble down bricks on this side. Going to do the same thing, bit of grunge paste to start with, just smoothing that through the stencil, and then add in a bit of the grit paste. We've been doing a lot of mixing of mediums lately, and today is no different. So I'm just getting different texture pastes involved in the game here, just to create a real variation in texture as I use the texture paste through the stencil here. And again, I'm gonna, once I've got the spare, I'm gonna do a little tapping to create additional texture on the surface of those bricks. Now those I can give a quick blast with the heat gun so that I can come back and put some colour on. I am going to, however, before I do that, turn this over again. And again, just scrape through whatever's left on the palette knife and whatever's here. I did actually put a bit back into the pot here, which will of course have a bit of grit paste in, which I might not want to have going. That's going to be so cool to just use for something later on. Let's get the lids back on the texture paste, particularly if you live in a dry climate. You may have experimented with film over the top of your texture paste, or the brilliant rubber bands that Tim Holtz has been talking about. I've got an order in for some of those. And then just before I wash this stencil, I'm gonna give it a little spritz of water right here, and again just see what else I can pick up in terms of texture. But yeah, you do want to get texture paste washed off while it's still, even that's good. And when you put ink over that, it's going to shift things. Right, I'm going to go and clean my stencil. That will give this a chance to dry just a little bit. Then I'll finish off the drawing with a heat gun and be back to paint some stony walls. If you don't want to run away and clean your stencil, you can keep just a tray of water and slide the stencil into it. It'll be fine while you carry on working to finish off what you're doing. So I've given these a dry. As always, when I'm working in these altered book journals, I have glued several pages together so that gives me a nice firm surface to work on. And I did, of course, give this just a scraping of gesso to start off with, because these papers in these old books otherwise will suck up all your paint and ink. But these are now dry, so I think what I'm going to start with is the PaperArtsy paint called Stone, because that seems like quite a good place to start with for a stone wall. I do like these warm stony colours, kind of a bit Cotswold, and I'm just going to give that a really rough coating, but in a minute we'll do something to really start drawing the eye towards that texture. And yeah, I can let that paint colour go in between, so that's going to be our mortar as well as some of our stony colour, keeping that quite soft and loose. I've got too much on the page as always, but I might leave that there for now. Too much on the mat, I mean. I might leave that there for now. You can see our grasses are now growing up behind the walls. I might want it for spattering, or I might want it to add a little bit more highlighting later on to some of these brick textures. So let's give that a good little blast. Otherwise, any medium that I add over the top is going to blend into the paint, whereas what I want it to do is sit as contrast to the paint. PaperArtsy paints dry really quickly anyway, so you're onto a good thing. I think I'm going to use a little bit of Hickory Smoke Distress Crayon, and I'm just going to very lightly hold it perpendicular to the page, rub it over those textures, and I think you can probably see how that immediately gives us a little highlighting of the brick textures that we created with our texture pastes, both the sandy ones but also that little tapping of the stones to just give you extra detail, extra texture. I want to put a little bit of sort of mossy green as well So this is Rustic Wilderness, and then a bit of peeled paint. And with some of this, what I then do is just use a fingertip to soften some of that colour. If you like it as the sharp texture, you can absolutely leave it like that. But I like the idea that there's sort of moss growing over the surface of some of these bricks, not over others. Yes, you're going to get a mucky finger. You can do that with a brush if you like. Don't get it too wet, because then it'll become a really painty kind of thing, and it'll do less highlighting of texture. It'll drop down into those textures. But also what that green is doing is just tying things together a little bit with the grasses that are now tucked behind our wall. That's sort of doing the job for me, I think. I think what I could do is do a little bit of dry brushing to just pick up some more texture in the walls, but I think for now, so I now know I'm sort of done with that. And then the tag that drew my attention when I was flicking through them is this one, and I sort of feel like it's almost as though he's perched over or on that wall, and I've got grasses coming up round either side of him. And then what I want to do is just create something on this page, probably a slightly smaller collection of elements that will echo, so pick up some of the similar ingredients. And I also quite like the idea, this is the burlap mesh or hessian mesh, quite like the idea of that also emerging off the tag, so that's sort of, it's connecting this tag into the page as well. Those grasses are doing quite a nice job of sort of collecting themselves like that. What I've also got around is my little tin full of labels. You can see there's a little green label here, and I'm thinking if I have another one, I could apply it so it's part on, part off the tag, and that's going to kind of bed us into the page as well. I've also got some of that same paper we used for the tag is left over here. So using that as a little balancing act over here, I could make another tag. I could go for something horizontal. Quite enjoying those words there. Let's make that a straight-ish line. Something that's going to connect with what's going on over there. And they're making a lovely noise outside now. I don't know if you can hear that. So creating a collection of textures and papers over here that echoes what's going on over there. And we know the bird is going to echo because he comes from the same, but he's maybe closer to the ground. Maybe he's the thing I want to position first. Do I like vertical vertical? Do I like vertical horizontal? I think I quite like vertical horizontal. Let's pop him somewhere there. Let's see what we want in terms of that. Maybe another little bit of that going out in that direction. Oh, that's good. So maybe this wants to do a similar thing this side. Something going either side of there. A little bit over, a little bit under. A couple of labels. Again, just creating that connection between the two sides of the page. We want that one. Maybe that one. It's looking a bit bare going up here, so I'm just going to see if there's something. Maybe we want a little bit of vertical mesh instead of those two little snippety bits. That might be quite good. There we go. That's the vertical I want, I think. I like the snippety bits as well, actually. And him down here. Does this want to go a little lower down so that he's over it? Yes, that's starting to make more sense to my eye. Something like that. Just wondering whether I want a whole other tag here. No, I think that's too much. I think that might be another page in the book that wants to do that. Let's just try out this other bird in case he's a better. Oh, that's quite nice. He's looking off down there. He's looking up there. Let's see. And maybe what we do is another little label doing that. I think it might be something like that. And we've got some other labels that are a bit brick wally. These little tickets we also made. I'll link to the label making episode 2. I think that's quite nice. It sort of ties him into there. I've got a little one here. Maybe another little layer of... Yeah, quite enjoying that. And then there's space for some words. I'm going to do some gluing down, just using my acrylic glue. Any glue will do. I've just noticed this word imagine. I'm just imagining it there. I'll have a think about that. What else is in here? Roses, roses, roses. That's no good to us because we haven't got any roses here. Another day for that. Yeah, I'm going to glue things down and then work out some wordiness. I wonder if we want any of these leaves. We made these leaves the other day, but I don't think we do. I think we've got enough going on with the grasses in the background. Gluing time. As always with the gluing process, little changes in where things went. I ended up, as I frequently do, chopping this little ticket in half so that you've got that echo across the pages. Also this strip, so that one little bit of it ended up here. I love where it's got to, but I'm thinking I'm missing some of the grasses that we've covered up. So I'm just going to take a little bit of Beach Cruiser, and without putting it on the grid block, I'm just going to add a little bit of masking to those so that I can get this grass coming out from behind here. There we go. Yeah, perfect. And I might do the same here. So again, just a little bit of masking to create that protection. I inked it up with Beach Cruiser, but it clearly still had some green on, so that it got me quite a dark green, but that's really good. And I want a little bit down there, just a secondary stamping, and maybe a little bit of leaf greeniness up here, because what I did lose behind this tag was the whole leaf green one. So again, just using my fingertips to press down exactly where I want that grass to happen. Nice. Good. And words wise, I've had a look at this Imagine that I've just used as masking. It's not quite doing it for me. I'm wondering whether I want to use another little bit of this green card, maybe without anything on it, to just anchor whatever words I use. Let's use that as a placeholder for now. And then I've got my usual small talk word stickers out. Quite like this one that I've already snipped apart and has come out once and then got put away again. Always be on the lookout for the presence of wonder. And I'm oh, hello. It's come out perfectly snipped. Just wondering, will you come apart? I'm always saying you're not sticky enough, and you're giving me the lie. Always be on the lookout for the presence of wonder. Just wondering if there's something around having it related to the green stuff. Maybe I shouldn't have chopped the green thing so small. Let's get the bigger one back. Oh, don't lose your words. Because these birds are clearly on the lookout for something. I'm guessing the presence of food rather than the presence of wonder. It's for us to wonder at the birds and the nature. I sort of quite like that. Let's look at it without. See, they're not going to show up enough like that. They're because of the book text in the background. But what I could do is put a little bit of, what have I got around? I've got some paint, I've got some, oh, we could have some blue sky up here, couldn't we? If I create, maybe with, so this is Summer Sky Fresco paint. I've also got, coincidentally on the mat, this is the Distress Oxide Re-Inker Speckled Egg. I'm just wondering whether one or both of those might be quite nice as a little background for the wording. And what it'll also do is give us a little sort of blue sky. That's a bit strong. I want it a waterier wash than that. Very watery and soft. Yeah, look. Just to give ourselves a little bit of even waterier. Just going to spread it out. And of course, as I'm adding water to an oxide, it will get chalky. What are you? Little scrap of... Let's just add a little bit of that. That's making me really quite happy. Luckily, I stamped my grasses in archival, so they're not going to go anywhere. I'll knock it back a little bit with a little bit of paper towel. But that's doing a really nice thing, I think. Just knocking the book text further into the background. I love the combination of the colours because it's giving me speckled egg vibe, but with a bit more summer blue. Not summer yet, but there is a glorious blue spring sky out there. It's not fair to say the best skies are only in summer, because very often... That's lovely. That's lovely. That completely unexpected addition, and I am going to do some spattering with this mixture as well. I'm adding in varying amounts of the summer sky, and I'm just going to give ourselves, again, a little spatter to tie things in. There might well be some white spatter at the very end as well. And I think that is going to allow these words to pop a little bit. I won't wipe that up just yet, but I'm going to give this a little quick blast with the heat gun. Yeah, see, I definitely want a bit more spatter on this bit of green. Glad I didn't wipe it up. Sometimes a bit too quick to clear up and then realise I want the thing back again. Yeah, maybe there won't be any white spatter. Maybe this is enough spatter for one day. We'll see. Grand, let's have a look at these here now. Yes, that's more like it. Always be on the lookout for the presence of wonder. What I might do is give them just a little edging of pumice stone, which is going to be similar to the sort of stony walls that are grounding the whole page. These stony walls are giving us weight down at the bottom, and now that lovely sky blue is spreading off into distance. It sounds like somebody's grinding stone out there. I mean, there's always somebody, by the time you get to this time of year, there's always somebody mowing or chopping or sawing wood. That's living in an still agrarian agricultural society, but a place where pretty much everyone works their garden for food as well as beauty, and fuel and all of those things. But yeah, that definitely sounds more like stone grinding the wood chopping to me. Maybe you can't hear it. That's good. I like it. So I'm going to glue those down, and of course I will hop back on to take you on a little close-up tour of this. I hope you've enjoyed that bit of gathering a page together, using an element as a starting point, an element you've created, maybe a tag or a background, but then finding ways to draw the page together by using similar bits of elements, that lovely balancing act of composition with repetition and variation, shifting the positions. And yeah, thanks so much for your company as always. Comments, questions, always welcome. As I mentioned, I will link to as much as seems relevant below in the description and list the ingredients that I've used today. Thank you as always for your company on this creative journey. It wouldn't be the same without you. Thanks so much, and happy crafting all.